Everyone, keep him busy and use the power of the curse to kill him. He won't be able to live for much longer, the Dark Star Emperor ordered coldly. He had realized Jian Chen's strength had increased drastically, and he had become even more difficult to kill. All they could do now was buy time and let the power of the curse play its role slowly. Ha 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 ha, when he heard the Dark Star Emperor, Jian Chen could not help but laugh aloud. Dark Star race, you've actually mobilized the entire race, condensing the will of the entire race to deal with me. What drastic measures you've taken. However, you're still far too naive. Do you really think you can deal with me with something like this? Dark Star race, since you're using all your clansmen against me, you better not blame me for being merciless and annihilating your entire race. Towards the end, a hint of viciousness immediately flashed across Jian Chen's expression. As long as the power of the curse remained, the wounds he incurred would grow more severe with each passing second. This was the situation he was in. He had no other choice. In the next moment, Jian Chen used the ultimate will, and in that moment, the region within 120,000 kilometers around him all fell under his control. He became the ruler of the region, such that he could determine the fate of everything at whim. After breaking through with the ways of the sword, the range of his ultimate will had grown from the original 100,000 kilometers to 120,000 kilometers. Jian Chen did not even move. He simply used his will, and in the next moment, something that struck utter terror into the hearts of the Dark Star Emperor and the 10 Hall Masters happened. The bodies of their numerous, chanting clansmen in the capital city rapidly collapsed, wiped from existence in the blink of an eye. Not even a single trace was left behind. An invisible force had killed them all, leaving behind a ground splattered with blood. The capital city instantly became a sea of blood. After breaking through with the laws of the sword, Jian Chen's ultimate sword intent had drastically strengthened. Although he was still unable to kill infinite primes, it was much stronger than the past. Now, when he used his ultimate will to kill godhood cultivators, he could already achieve wiping their bodies entirely from the world. In the blink of an eye, the capital city of the Dark Star race became a ghost city. The countless clansmen of the Dark Star race chanting along did not even manage to wail out before they vanished from the world. In the air, the eyes of the Dark Star Emperor and all the primordial realm experts in the capital city widened. They stared at the ground in shock and disbelief as they blanked out. There were several tens of million people gathered in the capital city. A total of several tens of million members of the Dark Star race had been wiped from existence right under their watch just like that. This strange sight had already surpassed everyone's imaginations, even overturning their understanding of the world. Even someone as powerful as the Dark Star Emperor became utterly stunned in that moment, unable to return to his senses. Where did you hide our clansmen? At this moment, a Vice Hall Master bellowed out viciously. His mind shook as his body trembled, utterly unable to accept what had unfolded before him. He was unable to face the reality that several tens of million clansmen had died already. However, the sea of blood that flowed through the capital city and the reeking of blood that filled the surroundings bombarded their senses again and again as if it was firm evidence presenting the horrific truth right before their eyes. UK, killed them all. The Dark Star Emperor slowly returned to his senses. He was utterly overwhelmed as he spoke with a trembling voice as if Jian Chen had just dealt a great blow to him. Jian Chen's response was the exact opposite to the Dark Star race's. There was a smear of joy on his face, as he could clearly sense that sure enough, the power of the curse on him had weakened drastically after killing the members of the Dark Star race in the capital city. Although this had come at the cost of sacrificing tens of million members of the Dark Star race, Jian Chen did not regret it at all, nor did he feel any guilt. After all, the great curse had been activated using the will of the Dark Star race. If he did not kill these people, the dead one in the end would just be him. Dark Star Emperor, with your level of cultivation, do you still need to ask me a question like that? You already know what happened. In order to stop your Dark Star race's so-called ultimate curse, I have no other choice either. Dark Star Emperor, you forced me to do this. You forced me to annihilate your entire race. The capital city is just a beginning. Jian Chen said coldly. With that, he immediately appeared near the edge of the formations. His body shone with light as he began attacking the formation at full strength. Although eliminating the capital city weakened the curse slightly, the chanting in the 36 major cities continued, so he had to head there as soon as possible. His body was still being destroyed. If he took too long, death would still be the only thing awaiting him. As a result, Jian Chen did not hold back as he attacked the formation, directly erupting with his full strength. Boom! Within the rumbling, the powerful formations that the upper echelon of the Darkstar race cast down around the capital city immediately began trembling violently. Soon afterwards, there were a series of cracks. Jian Chen had destroyed a total of 3 powerful formations with a single strike. The eyes of the upper echelon of the Darkstar race narrowed, shocked by this sight. They had paid an extremely great price to cast down every single formation around the capital city. As a matter of fact, they had even taken out a few precious items they had treasured for many years, just so they could push the strength of the formations to the limit. As a result, every single formation was exceptionally powerful, enough to block the attack of 9th heavenly layer infinite primes. Some of the formations could even block a few strikes from a newly broken through chaotic prime. But right now, Jian Chen had used a single strike to destroy 3 of them, demonstrating supreme strength that completely overturned their understanding and immediately leaving the primordial realm experts of the Darkstar race panic-stricken. This meant the strength that the outsider right before them could erupt with had already reached chaotic prime. Swish! At this moment, a huge seal flew over, smashing towards Jian Chen with surging energy. The Darkstar Emperor took action, attacking with the seal to stop Jian Chen from breaking out of the formations. At the same time, the 10 Hall Masters returned to their respective divine halls. Every single divine hall shone brilliantly as the energy stored in them depleted at an extremely terrifying rate, reinforcing the formations with the power of the divine halls. In that very moment, all of the primordial realm experts of the Darkstar race were doing everything that they could. They were not hoping to kill Jian Chen, only to trap him in the formations so that the power of the curse could slowly play its role. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. Jian Chen obviously understood what the Darkstar race was trying to do, but he was no longer the same as before. His breakthrough in the ways of the sword had strengthened him in all aspects. He had truly evolved. Even though he was still an infinite prime, his actual battle prowess had completely reached chaotic prime. Even among the 2 large worlds swarming with experts, the Immortals world and Saints world, chaotic primes were experts that reigned over an entire region. Even among peak organizations that stood at the apex of a plane with grand primes, chaotic primes were still figures equivalent to great elders, possessing great status and authority. Now, Jian Chen had become one of them. With the Darkstar race's current strength, how difficult would it be to trap an expert on par with a chaotic prime? Jian Chen swung his fists, and chaotic force surged through his body, completely demonstrating the toughness of the chaotic body. With a simple punch, he shattered space before landing viciously against the seal destructively. Boom! With a great rumble, terrifying pulses of energy poured out into the surroundings. The recently repaired capital city was reduced to ruins once again. At the same time, the formations around the capital city shook violently under the great force, rapidly depleting their energy. After all, this was equivalent to a clash between chaotic primes. This was on a completely different level compared to when Jian Chen disrupted the great ceremony. Jian Chen had knocked away the Darkstar Emperor's seal. The seal dimmed, and the powerful energy condensed around it had already been dispersed. The power behind a punch from Jian Chen could completely suppress the Darkstar Emperor's medium-quality god artifact. Of course, this did not mean a medium-quality god artifact was weak. However, a medium-quality god artifact could only unleash its full strength in the hands of a chaotic prime, so it clearly was unable to demonstrate its glory in the Darkstar Emperor's hands. Moreover, the medium-quality god artifact was not in perfect condition. It was a damaged god artifact, so its might had been further reduced. The Darkstar Emperor was stern. With a wave of his hand, the triangular shield turned into a streak of light and shot over, swinging towards Jian Chen with lightning speed like a thin blade. At the same time, the Dark Star Emperor took a step and appeared before Jian Chen instantly. As his energy surged, the huge, blurry figure of a fist appeared behind him. The figure of the fist overlapped with his presence, pushing the Dark Star Emperor's energies to the limit and allowing him to throw a brilliant punch. This was not a god-tier battle skill, but a powerful secret technique. As the Dark Star Emperor punched out, the energy in the surroundings was drawn over wildly, allowing the force behind his punch to skyrocket too. Jian Chen's gaze was sharp, and his face was frosty. He suddenly turned around and condensed chaotic force into his right hand, reaching out. With a heavy thud from the collision of energy, he had already caught the blade-like triangular shield firmly. At the same time, he formed a sword with his right hand. Immediately, raging sword chi condensed, radiating with blinding light as it collided with the Dark Star Emperor. Boom! The rumble from the collision this time was even more violent than the previous clash. All of the formations that enveloped the place shook violently. Even the 10 divine halls that hovered in the air trembled violently. Following the strike, the Dark Star Emperor drifted back uncontrollably, except this was the first time he had been forced back when clashing with Jian Chen. Jian Chen also came to a halt and shuddered, stumbling 3 steps backwards. The Dark Star Emperor's strike had also reached chaotic prime. Although it paled slightly in comparison to Jian Chen's, it could still shake him up. After repelling the Dark Star Emperor, Jian Chen immediately turned around and attacked the formations behind him with full strength. He blazed with sword chi as chaotic force circulated through his body rapidly. He launched a full-strength attack at the formations. Bang! 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 Like that, Jian Chen destroyed another 3 formations. Out of the 12 formations the Dark Star race cast down, only 6 remained. As he watched the formations that trapped Jian Chen rapidly lessen, the Dark Star Emperor felt a sense of anxiety for once. Jian Chen's increase in strength had completely surpassed the Dark Star Emperor's expectations. Against the current Jian Chen, even the Dark Star Emperor, who had always been so confident in himself in the past, believing himself to be invincible, felt helpless for the first time. We have to stop him, or once he breaks free, it'll be the end of our race with his ability that can massacre millions of our clansmen at once. The Dark Star Emperor made up his mind inside. Spitting out a mouthful of essence blood, the seal hovering before him immediately erupted with light. The pressure of a medium-quality god artifact radiated out mightily before piercing through space and immediately looming over Jian Chen's head. You might be able to momentarily unleash its former glory, but what can you do about the artifact spirit that is already dead? And, you can only launch a single strike, so what can you do to me? Sensing the Dark Star Emperor repeating an old trick, Jian Chen let out a sneer. Turning into a sword, he directly stabbed at the seal with surging might. Boom! With a great rumble, large swathes of space became covered in cracks. The seal that originally loomed over Jian Chen and crushed towards him had been thrown high into the sky. As for Jian Chen, the sword chi around him dimmed, and he fell out of the sky, smashing into the ground heavily. But in the next moment, he immediately charged back into the air. His presence surged, showing no signs of weakening. He ignored the Dark Star Emperor and erupted with sword chi again. He seemed to turn into a sword as he shot towards the formations as a streak of light. The first formation, destroyed. The second formation, destroyed. The third formation, destroyed. The fourth formation, destroyed. This time, Jian Chen was like a hot knife through butter, shattering a total of 4 formations. As a result, only 2 formations that imprisoned him here remained. But with the delay, the injuries he sustained from the curse became heavier. On his legs, the flesh that had been completely annihilated had already reached his knees. Everything below his knees had already vanished. He basically seemed like a disabled person. Oh no! Seeing how they had lost 4 formations in a single moment, the Dark Star Emperor's expression changed immediately. At the same time, Jian Chen suddenly targeted the Dark Star Emperor with his palm and unleashed the laws of space at full strength. In the next moment, the Dark Star Emperor felt his surroundings change. The familiar scenery had vanished completely, and Jian Chen had disappeared from his vision. Caught off guard, he had been teleported away by Jian Chen through the laws of space, moved to somewhere else. The Dark Star Emperor immediately placed in anger, but at this moment, Jian Chen launched another full-powered strike. Sword Chi combined with destructive chaotic force smashed against the last two formations. Immediately, cracks riddled the formations. As the energy within the Sword Chi was released and the attacks on par with chaotic prime slammed against the formations again and again, even the 10 divine halls that hovered in the air shook violently. Under the violent shaking, a few cracks appeared again within the interiors of the 10 divine halls that were damaged already. The appearance of the cracks seemed to be a sign that the formations that used the 10 divine halls as their crucial points had reached their limit. Finally, with a thunk, the final formations that blocked Jian Chen shattered loudly as well. All of the formations were gone. Jian Chen seemed to become a soaring hawk once again, no longer tied down. The laws of space pulsed, and he had already vanished, rushing towards the next city as quickly as he could. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. Jian Chen's departure made the expressions of the Dark Star Emperor and all the primordial realm experts in the 10 divine halls change drastically. The Dark Star Emperor immediately closed his eyes, merging his soul with the surroundings and establishing a wondrous connection with the Dark Star world. A while later, he seemed to detect something, snapping open his eyes and saying, "That way. It's Dui City, that's the closest from here. He must have gone to Dui City. Let's go to Dui City immediately." The Dark Star Emperor waved his hand, and a teleportation formation disc immediately appeared out of nowhere. With a flash, he stepped into the formation disc and vanished. The 10 Hall Masters and the various Vice Hall Masters all emerged from their respective divine halls. All of their faces were extremely ugly, worried with their hearts weighing heavily. Carrying the shrunken divine halls with them, they followed the Dark Star Emperor into the teleportation formation. During the days Jian Chen spent breaking through in the Two World Mountains, the Dark Star race had already made many arrangements against a situation like today. They had even prepared several dozen teleportation formation discs like the one the Dark Star Emperor had used just now, connected to the 36 major cities. They had come up with this plan to prevent Jian Chen from hitting and running with the laws of space and taking down the 36 major cities one by one. With these teleportation formation discs, no matter which city Jian Chen went to, the experts of the Dark Star race could make it there before him and wait for him to arrive. And, in order to prevent Jian Chen from leaving through the teleportation formations in the major cities, the Dark Star Emperor had even ordered all the teleportation formations to be shut. All of the functional teleportation formations in the Dark Star world were now in the possession of the Dark Star Emperor and the upper echelon of the Dark Star race. Although they possessed this advantage, Jian Chen's ability to massacre an entire city with merely a thought still cast a shadow over the hearts of the upper echelon. Within Dui City, one of the 36 major cities of the Dark Star race. Currently, the countless members of the Dark Star race in Dui City sat on the ground and chanted. They constantly changed their hand seals, offering up their strength to the ultimate curse. At this moment, the Dark Star Emperor's figure suddenly appeared over Dui City. Following him, the Hall Masters and Vice Hall Masters all arrived too. The moment they arrived, they immediately unleashed the 10 divine halls before flying into the divine halls and falling into formation. Only the Dark Star Emperor hovered in the air alone, facing the direction of the capital city, ready for battle. It's the Emperor and the 10 Hall Masters. Weren't they watching over the capital city? Why have they all come to our Dui City? Don't tell me the terrifyingly powerful outsider is currently making his way towards our Dui City? The City Lord of Dui City immediately detected the Dark Star Emperor and everyone else's presence and became stunned. The expressions of the Vice City Lord standing beside the City Lord all changed again and again. Immediately, a Vice Hall Master ordered, 108 kings, fall into the formation of the 100 kings immediately. 36 lords, use the Heaven's Net formation right now. Activate all of the formations in Dui City. Hearing the Vice City Lord's arrangements, the City Lord shook his head helplessly and said, "It's useless. The outsider is an existence even more powerful than the first Hall Master. Before him, even if we use all the strength our city can offer, we cannot even pose the slightest threat to him. Right now, all we can do is pray the outsider arrives a little later. The more time passes, the greater the harm the curse will cause. However, as soon as he finished speaking, the city lord's face changed drastically. A tremendous presence suddenly descended, enveloping the entire city instantly with raging killing intent. Jian Chen's figure had already silently appeared several tens of thousand kilometers away from Dui City. We cannot allow him to enter the city, or the clansmen in Dui City will be in danger. I'll go out and keep him busy. 10 Hall Masters immediately fall into formation and protect Dui City. The formation assembled from the 10 divine halls can stop his laws of space. The Dark Star Emperor bellowed out and immediately approached Jian Chen. The Hall Masters and Vice Hall Masters immediately channeled their energy into the divine halls, wanting to unleash the formation again. Several tens of thousand kilometers away from Dui City, Jian Chen hovered in the air with no plans of getting any closer to the city. He simply stared in the direction of Dui City with a gaze filled with icy killing intent. In the next moment, his ultimate will spread out, enveloping Dui City in a single instant before activating. Inside Dui City, before the 10 divine halls could even fall into formation, the countless members of the Dark Star race had already vanished completely. It was like they had vaporized on the spot. They did not even leave any remains behind. Only the sea composed of blood flooded the streets and alleyways, giving off a sharp, sanguine stench. In that moment, everyone in Dui City, including the 108 kings, the 36 lords, the vice city lords, and the city lord, had been annihilated. With the massacre of Dui City, the power of the ultimate curse on Jian Chen weakened once again. Seeing this, the Hall Masters and Vice Hall Master and the 10 divine halls who had not managed to fall into formation yet were all devastated, while the Dark Star Emperor could not help but let out a furious and sorrowful howl. However, Jian Chen did not care about how they felt. He did not have much time left. He could not even waste a second, so after massacring Dui City, he immediately left through the laws of space. Flying Phoenix City. He's gone to Flying Phoenix City. Quick, rush over these as fast as possible. The Dark Star Emperor roared furiously and tossed out another teleportation formation disk from his space ring, leading the Primordial Realm experts to Flying Phoenix City. The Primordial Realm experts of the Dark Star race understood Jian Chen's ultimate will better and better with his consecutive use. As a result, the Hall Masters immediately fell into formation as quickly as they could regardless of the cost when they arrived, enveloping the entire city. With their 2 experiences from before, they already possessed a vague understanding of the limit of Jian Chen's ultimate will. It could only be used against cultivators at godhood and below. As long as they had stepped into the primordial realm, then the power that could instantly massacre all would immediately be rendered useless. At the same time, if the formation were powerful enough, they could block off this power that seemed to be able to kill everything. Very soon, the formation of the 10 divine halls was established, but when Jian Chen arrived at Flying Phoenix City, he did not waste any time with the Dark Star Emperor at all. When the Dark Star Emperor charged at Jian Chen aggressively, Jian Chen instead chose to dodge with the laws of space. Then he launched a strand of sword chi on par with chaotic prime at the formation the 10 divine halls cast down. Back then in the capital city, even the numerous formations the 10 divine halls had taken their time in arranging were unable to stop Jian Chen, so how could the formation they had created in a hurry block the powerful attack of a chaotic prime? With a rumble, the formation protecting soaring Phoenix City shattered. In the next moment, Jian Chen's ultimate will advanced and reduced soaring Phoenix City into a ghost city instantly. The Dark Star Emperor and the 10 Hall Masters had almost widened their eyes to the point where their eyelids would be torn apart with the consecutive destruction of 3 cities. All of their eyes were bloodshot as the fury and killing intent they experienced inside had already reached blithering levels. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. Flying Phoenix City was not the final destination. The 36 major cities of the Dark Star race fell one after another. In a short period of time, over 20 major cities had been completely reduced to ghost cities. Although the Dark Star Emperor would often be able to make it to the next city before Jian Chen arrived, it was useless. Despite everything he was capable of, despite everything he could think of, he was simply unable to stop Jian Chen from massacring cities. Whether the 10 divine halls worked together and defended or took the offense, they were unable to stop the destruction city after city. Before Jian Chen's ultimate will, all they could achieve was protect themselves and prevent themselves from being harmed. They were unable to protect their clansmen. During his journey between the major cities, Jian Chen ran into a few towns and villages scattered in the various regions of the Dark Star race, and he discovered all the members of the Dark Star race in these towns and villages also partook in the ultimate curse. However, none of these towns and villages had statues. They only used the incantations of the ultimate curse to deliver their will to the 36 major cities before using the faceless statues in the major cities as a medium to imbue Jian Chen with the power of the great curse. As a result, Jian Chen ignored these people in the towns and villages. His primary target was still the 36 major cities. He had discovered a long time ago that as long as he brought a major city to ruins and destroyed the statue that served as the medium, the wills from the towns and villages were unable to gather together, much less find him in the vast world. The destruction of over 20 major cities weakened the curse on Jian Chen very much, but the power from the remaining dozen or so cities continued to eat away at his flesh and blood. By now, everything below Jian Chen's knees had already vanished. Even half of his thighs had already vanished. And, as time went on, the destruction gradually spread towards his waist. The gates of death were growing closer and closer to him. Ha ha ha, Dark Star race, I'd like to see whether it's you who destroy me first, or it's me who destroys your Dark Star race first. After annihilating another city, Jian Chen's figure vanished as he laughed aloud, leaving behind the fuming Dark Star Emperor and the upper echelon. They hovered above the empty major city with faces pale from anger. As they experienced uncontrollable fury, they also felt extremely powerless. Even the Dark Star Emperor who believed himself to be invincible felt deeply defeated. He's destroying cities faster and faster. If this continues, the 36 major cities will probably be destroyed before the curse kills him, the first hall master said sternly. With the destruction of over 20 major cities, the amount of clansmen who died in such a short amount of time already reached into the billions. By now, Jian Chen had already become a demon in his eyes. Your Majesty, we can no longer stop him. Should we continue? The 7th Hall Master Getty spoke up with a bitter expression. Among the 10 Hall Masters, he hated the outsiders the most, and his killing intent towards Jian Chen was unprecedentedly intense. But right now, he truly experienced cold feet. He already felt fear. He has the laws of space. Even if we have the remaining major cities continue with the curse, as long as we don't kill him off entirely, even if he's reduced to a mere head, he'll have a chance to escape. As for our race, we'll have to pay a price that involves the destruction of the remaining major cities and the lives of billions of clansmen, the 2nd Hall Master spoke up too. With how everything had developed, all the Hall Masters were considering backing down. They could all tell that if this continued, the outsider might not necessarily die, but their race faced the risk of extinction. The Dark Star Emperor clenched his fists. His sharp nails already dug deeply into his flesh. At a closer glance, it was possible to see that he was gently shaking all over. This was from utter fury. The Dark Star Emperor's hatred and killing intent towards Jian Chen had reached the point where it could drown out the heavens and destroy the entire world a long time ago. He did not rush off to the next city. Instead, he remained where he was. His eyes that had become completely blood-red flickered violently with red light. He seemed to be facing an intense conflict inside. Only a while later did he slowly close his eyes. After exhaling deeply, he gritted his teeth. Carry out the Survival Embers plan. In order to deal with Jian Chen, the Dark Star Emperor had come up with many plans. Not only did the plans cover offense, defense, and many strategies for sudden twists, but there were also plans to be carried out for survival in the event that the Dark Star race was unable to defeat Jian Chen. This plan was known as Survival Embers. As soon as they heard the Survival Embers plan being mentioned, all of the hall masters and vice hall masters became filled with dejection, but all of them understood they no longer had any other choice given the current circumstances. In the Dark Night City, the newly appointed city lord managed the curse of the entire city. Even he himself formed seals with his hands and partook in the chanting, condensing his will to offer up a part of his power to the curse. At this moment, the city lord's heart skipped a beat. He immediately took out his city lord's tablet and saw 9 simple glyphs engraved on the tablet. Among the 9 glyphs, the first 8 were dim, but the 9th shone brightly. The 9th glyph's shining. This means we're supposed to carry out the survival embers plan. As he stared at the shining 9th glyph, the city lord's face suddenly changed drastically. His eyes were filled with disbelief. But soon afterwards, he returned to his senses and stood up. His voice erupted, "Everyone in the city, listen up. Carry out the survival embers plan. Stop the curse immediately and flee from the city as quickly as you can." Immediately, all the members of the Darkstar race in the city became momentarily stunned before scattering like birds and beasts, fleeing in all directions. It was also at this moment that Jian Chen's figure suddenly appeared over the city. His flooding presence enveloped the entire place instantly. As he gazed at the people fleeing in all directions, he could not help himself as his lips curled into a sneer. Escape? Do you think you can escape like this? His ultimate will immediately spread out, enveloping a radius of 120,000 kilometers. However, right when he was about to massacre the fleeing members of the Darkstar race, he sensed sharply that the curse on him actually began to weaken drastically. Looks like the Darkstar race had already stopped trying to kill me with the curse. They've finally learned fear. As he gazed at the scattering members of the Darkstar race, Jian Chen showed a hint of hesitation. When he destroyed city after city earlier, that was due to his circumstances. He was forced to do that, or he would be the one who died. But now, the Darkstar race had already given up on killing him through the curse. He found it rather difficult to continue killing these regular members of the Darkstar race. After all, this was not the matter of a life or two, but the matter of tens of millions. As a matter of fact, some of the more populous major cities even had over 100 million of people. He was not a soft-hearted person. In his heart, he had no good impression of the Darkstar race, but he had already killed enough members of the Darkstar race today, and many of them were innocent to him. The only people who harmed Sacred Feather are the upper echelon of the Darkstar race. Even if I want revenge, I should go and find the 10 Divine Halls and the Darkstar Emperor. Jian Chen sighed inside. At the end of the day, he was unable to bring himself to wipe out an entire race when his life was no longer under threat. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. Boom! With a great rumble, Jian Chen destroyed the faceless statue in Dark Night City before immediately leaving and continuing to the next city. Although the remaining major cities had already stopped the curse, there were still many towns and villages scattered about. The members of the Darkstar race in these towns and villages had not stopped the curse. As a result, the power of the curse gathered from the towns and villages continued to use the faceless statues as a medium to curse Jian Chen. Only by destroying all the statues in the 36 major cities would the curse be completely disrupted. Jian Chen's laws of space had already reached the 8th heavenly layer of infinite prime, while his travel speed had completely surpassed regular chaotic primes already. As a result, even though the major cities of the Darkstar race were spread extremely far from one another, Jian Chen still managed to visit them one by one in a short time. With the destruction of the last statue, Jian Chen immediately felt his entire body lighten up. In that moment, the curse that the Darkstar race had cast on him completely vanished. Even though there were still countless members of the Darkstar race continuing with the ritual of the ultimate curse in the many towns and villages, the power created dispersed in the surroundings, unable to find its target without the statues as a medium. The statue in Blacklight City was the last one Jian Chen had destroyed. By now, Blacklight City had already emptied out long ago. All the people in the city had retreated when they received the orders from the upper echelon to carry out the Survival Embers plan. However, they did not travel too far away. Instead, they scattered within 10,000 kilometers of the city, hiding away carefully and gazing at the city in the distance. Many of them believed this was already a safe enough distance. In the city lord's estate, Jian Chen's flesh from his missing legs hovered above the roof. Right before him was a cluster of flesh and blood that radiated with the presence of chaotic force, wrapped in an invisible power and hovering in the air. The flesh and blood had been gathered from the statues as Jian Chen destroyed them one by one. They were also the medium the Dark Star race had used to lock onto him. Jian Chen extended his hand slowly. When his hand came into contact with the remains, the cluster of flesh and blood containing powerful energy and vital energy immediately withered away at a visible rate. Jian Chen had absorbed all of the energy within the flesh. After recovering all of his lost energy, Jian Chen pointed out gently, and the withered flesh before him immediately turned to dust. Afterwards, Jian Chen remained in Blacklight City and mobilized the small, remaining portion of chaotic force in his body to heal his wounds. His legs that the power of the curse had eaten away began to grow back slowly. At this moment, the Dark Star Emperor's figure silently appeared above Blacklight City with a powerful teleportation force. The 10 Hall Masters, all the Vice Hall Masters, and even the 5 Infinite Prime City Lords all appeared behind him. In that moment, all the Primordial Realm experts from the Dark Star race appeared there, without a single missing. Everyone stared at Jian Chen with raging hatred. However, none of them did anything. Instead, their gazes were all drawn away by Jian Chen's legs that were slowly regrowing as their heads pounded violently. Jian Chen did nothing as well. He merely hovered in the air emotionlessly, silently keeping an eye over the chaotic force that was being rapidly depleted in his dantian while sensing his regrowing legs. Has Kun Tian already been killed by you? The 10th Hall Master Feng Shui asked suddenly. She gritted her teeth as she stared firmly at Jian Chen with hate-filled eyes. That's right. I already killed Kun Tian back in the land of soul destruction. Raising his gaze and looking at Feng Shui, Jian Chen could not help but think of all the sincere feelings Feng Shui had shown Kun Tian during the days he impersonated Kun Tian, which made him sigh inside. As if she had been struck by lightning, Feng Shui trembled violently. Although she had already guessed this result, she still clung onto her fantasies a little, wondering whether the real Kun Tian had been trapped or not and whether it was because of some other reasons that he was unable to show himself. But now, Jian Chen's firm statement immediately shattered all of Feng Shui's hopes, tearing her apart in grief. Why? Why did you kill Kun Tian? Why did you oppose our Dark Star race? If you wanted high-grade God King grass, if you wanted ancestral sacred earth, our Dark Star race could provide it to you. We can even just give you the fruit of nurturing ways we've grown after so much difficulty, but just why did you have to oppose our Dark Star race? Feng Shui screamed with a shrill voice. If you really needed high-grade God King grass and ancestral sacred earth, we would have exchanged all of our supply for our Hall Master's life without even batting an eye, but just why did you have to kill our Hall Master? Do Wujin of the 5th Divine Hall said. He was pained inside and felt humiliated. Who would have thought the 5th Hall Master he respected and admired all this time would actually be an outsider in disguise? All I want to know is exactly what grievances exist between our race and you, and why you deliberately infiltrated our race and disrupted our great ceremony. Don't tell me you're under the orders of the Wood Spirits, the Dark Star Emperor asked. His voice was extremely stern as he asked the questions that had bothered him all this time. You're actually asking me what grievances exist between us? Looks like even right now, you still have no idea who is truly responsible for the failure of your great ceremony. Jian Chen laughed. This was the first conversation he held with the Dark Star race ever since he exposed his identity. Afterwards, he took out the divine hall he carried on him and said, "You should all be familiar with the divine beast I saved, but you definitely don't know what kind of relationship exists between the divine beast and me. He's as close to me as a brother. You can even call him my family." When he reached there, Jian Chen suddenly became rather emotional. The killing intent that had already faded in his eyes erupted once more at this moment. He pointed at the people from the Dark Star race and scolded, "As for you, you actually harmed my family, my brother, using such cruel methods to drain him of his essence blood. In the end, you even wanted to sacrifice my brother's life just for the success of your great ceremony. I originally had no grievances with your Dark Star race. The reason why you had to carry out this great ceremony or whatever it is had nothing to do with me either. However, you should have never, ever captured my brother as an offering. Your Dark Star race asked for all of this. I see. I've already considered the possibility of the divine beast possessing a great background, except the Dark Star world is cut off from all the experts from the outside world, so no threats can scare us in here. It's just that we never considered the divine beast would actually have a primordial realm expert who can set foot in the Dark Star world behind him, the Dark Star Emperor said calmly, without even a hint of regret. He stared straight at Jian Chen and said, "Outsider, with the strength you've demonstrated today, you already possess the right to negotiate with me, so why don't we make a deal? If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible." Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. Chapter 2877, A Grand Exalt's Bone, a Deal? Jian Chen was surprised. He stared at the Dark Star Emperor with a slight smile and said, "What kind of deal do you want to make with me?" "Your Majesty, why waste words on him? Although our ultimate curse failed to wipe him from existence, it has still caused him heavy injuries. Why aren't we taking advantage of the fact that his legs haven't recovered and how he's not in peak condition to finish him off? He might be powerful, but we have several dozen primordial realm experts here after all. If we pay a small price, it's not exactly impossible," the 7th Hall Master Gedi said secretly to the Dark Star Emperor. His eyes were fixed on Jian Chen's healing legs as he became more and more frantic. He felt like the fantastic opportunity to kill Jian Chen was gradually slipping away. "Your Majesty, we gathered the will of the entire race to cast the ultimate curse and managed to make him lose his legs after so much difficulty. If we continue to give him time to recover, then our ultimate curse would have achieved nothing. We can't let him catch his breath," the 6th Hall Master said to the Dark Star Emperor as well. The Dark Star Emperor shook his head gently. He enveloped everyone in the power of his soul, and his dignified voice boomed out in their heads. "Your thoughts are far too simple. The outsider before you is even more difficult to deal with than you think. Even before he broke through, it would have been a difficult feat for me to kill him. Now, his strength has exploded. He's no longer any weaker than me. Even though I refuse to accept this, I must admit that I no longer possess the ability to kill him. As for his missing legs, you have absolutely no idea how powerful his body is. Even with his legs missing, his strength won't be affected too much. All we can do right now is use a different strategy against him." The Hall Masters and Vice Hall Masters all fell silent with what the Dark Star Emperor said. At the same time, they recalled the strength that Jian Chen had demonstrated when he destroyed their formations in the capital city so quickly. They felt powerless from the bottom of their hearts. The Dark Star Emperor's expression gradually settled down. Since he had decided to use a different strategy for the current situation, his mindset rapidly changed. He stared at Jian Chen with interest and said slowly, "I haven't been to your saint's world before, but I do know a little about the vile nature of people in your saint's world. Your saint's world has always held to the extreme principle of survival that strength reigns supreme and personal interests come above everything else. When the benefits are tempting enough, you people can even turn against your very own brothers without batting an eye. It's even possible to make loving couples kill one another. As for the deal I want to make with you, I'll be offering a treasure that you won't be able to decline, or even will be afraid to decline, in exchange for something in your possession." When the Dark Star Emperor reached there, Jian Chen's eyes coldened. He had already vaguely guessed what the Dark Star Emperor wanted from him. But before he could respond, the Dark Star Emperor continued, "I'll use a bone from the Grand Exalt of the Wood Spirits to exchange for the Divine Beast. Outsider, first of all, you aren't even connected to the Divine Beast by blood. Moreover, with your battle prowess at Chaotic Prime, a measly God King Divine Beast is nowhere near enough for you to go so far. As for a bone from the Grand Exalt of the Wood Spirits, I think you know extremely well how rare and precious it is. I'll use a Grand Exalt's bone to buy your friendship with the Divine Beast. Not only will you not lose out, but it'll even be a great opportunity for you instead. The Dark Star Emperor stood with his arms behind his back, staring straight at Jian Chen. He was filled with confidence. Just like what he had said, the condition he put forward was irresistible to any chaotic prime of the Saints' world. Let alone chaotic primes, even some grand primes would be willing to turn against their closest friends and family for this. After all, this was a Grand Exalt's bone. It could definitely be regarded as a supreme treasure. A bone of the Grand Exalt of the Wood Spirits? Sure enough, your Dark Star race is wealthy. I didn't think you'd even be in possession of something like a Grand Exalt's bone. However, trading a Grand Exalt's bone for Sacred Feather's life is nowhere near enough, Jian Chen said. The Dark Star Emperor frowned. Not enough? Then I'll add, even if you offer up your entire race, it'll be nowhere near enough to even get a finger from Sacred Feather. It's hilarious to think that you're still trying to take Sacred Feather away from me just so that you can continue with your so-called great ceremony. Jian Chen sneered. Outsider, you better not push your luck. Do you really think our race is powerless against you? You should know about the virtuous sage of heaven, right? If you really offend our race through and through, we'll be able to make you die a graveless death even after you've returned to the Saints' world. It won't just be you. Even the clan or organization behind you won't be spared. Getty could not help but bellow furiously. Jian Chen's gaze landed on Getty, and he sneered. Getty, the 7th Hall Master, as well as Kun Tian's greatest enemy. So be it. Since I've used Kun Tian's identity for such a long time, it's about time I did some things for him. Sacred Feather too. The person who truly harmed you in the past still hasn't paid the price yet. As Jian Chen murmured to himself, the Dark Star Emperor's expression immediately changed slightly. He knew something bad was about to happen. But by now, Jian Chen had already appeared before Getty silently. Under Getty's fear-stricken gaze, Jian Chen erupted with sword chi instantly and enveloped Getty. The Dark Star Emperor roared out furiously, directly hurling a fist over with lightning speed. With a thunderous sound, it tore through space as it hurtled towards Jian Chen. Within the sword chi, Jian Chen also threw a punch in response. Chaotic force circulated through his fist as sharp sword chi erupted in all directions, colliding with the Dark Star Emperor's punch. Bang! With a thud, the powerful energy turned into a storm and swept away all the primordial realm experts in the surroundings. This was a clash at chaotic prime. Even the residual shockwaves were devastating. Blacklight City below had been flattened completely, unable to put up a fight at all before the energy. At this moment, the sword chi around Jian Chen vanished, revealing the 7th Hall Master Getty's figure. However, there was an extremely small wound on his forehead with blood flowing out. Why, you killed Getty? The Dark Star Emperor erupted in fury. His gaze became extremely terrifying. He could tell with a single glance that Getty was already dead, his soul wiped out. Given Jian Chen's great strength that was already on par with chaotic primes, it truly only took him a flick to kill a 6th heavenly layer infinite prime. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. Chapter 2878, The Darkest Day. Are you angry? Are you furious? Jian Chen stared at the Dark Star Emperor with a sneer. He felt completely satisfied inside. When the Dark Star race carried out the great ceremony, he had clashed with the Dark Star Emperor, but back then, he primarily did it to save Sacred Feather and block the Dark Star Emperor so that the fruit of nurturing ways had enough time to ripen. This time, he had consecutively destroyed over 20 major cities of the Dark Star race. However, that was only to stop the Dark Star race's ultimate curse so that he could save his own hide. As a result, Jian Chen believed that Sacred Feather still had not been avenged. During the past few days, Sacred Feather had been drained of all of his essence blood, enduring brutal and inhumane torture. This grievance could be described as a feud of death. He had to avenge Sacred Feather. He had to achieve justice for Sacred Feather. At the same time, he also had to make the Dark Star race pay a heavy price. Disrupting the great ceremony, stealing the fruit of nurturing ways, and destroying over 20 major cities was still nowhere near enough. I've only killed a Hall Master, and you've already become so furious. Won't what happens next break you mentally? Jian Chen sneered as the killing intent in his eyes intensified. With a flash, he immediately appeared beside the Vice Hall Master of the 7th Divine Hall, Enlai. As if he had seen a ghost, Enlai immediately paled from fright. Undisguisable fear and panic filled his eyes as he immediately retreated as fast as possible. Against an expert that even the Dark Star Emperor was helpless against, Enlai could not even consider resisting anymore. The only response that filled his brain was to flee. To flee as quickly as he could. However, the space around him had already changed. Although he was retreating as quickly as possible, he remained where he was, unable to break free from the spatial restraints. It felt like the space around him had already been indefinitely stretched out. Stop! The Dark Star Emperor roared furiously, immediately taking action to save Enlai. The life of every primordial realm expert in the Dark Star race was as precious as treasure. Every single loss they suffered would tremendously impact the Dark Star race's strength. As Enlai faced danger, the Dark Star Emperor immediately tensed up. But what could he do? Jian Chen was already no weaker than the Dark Star Emperor now, even surpassing him. Under these circumstances, it was obviously riddled with difficulty for the Dark Star Emperor to save Enlai. In the next moment, a spatial blade appeared in the space around Enlai and vanished with a flash. Enlai's head immediately split open, his soul slashed apart and reduced to nothing. Enlai had died. Before breaking through, Jian Chen's laws of space had only just reached infinite prime. Laws of space at that level were nowhere near enough to threaten a fourth heavenly layer infinite primes like Enlai. But now, with his comprehension elevated to the 8th heavenly layer, the laws of space that he could only use to travel in the past immediately became a powerful method of attack. Jian Chen blocked the Dark Star Emperor's attack before pointing at the other Vice Hall Master of the 7th Divine Hall, Kaisol. In the next moment, the space that Kaisol resided in suddenly collapsed. A fist-sized, black hole appeared, together with sharp blades transformed from the powers of space, sweeping through the area. Kaisol vanished as he let out a miserable shriek. Kaisol had died. He did not even leave behind a corpse. He had completely vanished. 2 Vice Hall Masters had died in the blink of an eye, which made the remaining Hall Masters and Vice Hall Masters tremble with fear. The terrifying, undefeatable strength that Jian Chen had displayed already struck fear into all the Vice Hall Masters. The Dark Star Emperor's face was extremely sunken. Killing intent filled his eyes as he attacked Jian Chen with his seal at full strength. He unleashed secret techniques one after another, erupting with devastating might. At the same time, the Hall Masters and Vice Hall Masters all took action. The lengthy time they had spent cultivating allowed them to grasp many God-tier battle skills and secret techniques. In that moment, many God-tier battle skills and secret techniques were used. The surroundings immediately became filled with pressure as the powerful energy turned into wild storms, wreaking havoc everywhere. Faced with the attacks of several dozen primordial realm experts, Jian Chen did not try to dodge or evade at all. He simply emitted a streak of resplendent light, dispersing the first Hall Master's attack from afar. Boom! 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 Immediately, Jian Chen was swallowed up by the attacks from the several dozen primordial realm experts. The Hall Masters and Vice Hall Masters all beamed with joy, as they all saw that Jian Chen was unprotected. He had used his body to endure their attacks. Fantastic. Having endured the combined attacks from all of us, it'll take quite a toll on him even if he manages to survive. No matter how tough his body is, it's impossible for him to endure so many God-tier battle skills. In that moment, many of the primordial realm experts secretly rejoiced inside. They originally thought the outsider would be undefeatable, but never did they expect to injure him so easily. But very soon, everyone became stunned. Their eyes widened and disbelief filled all of their faces, as they discovered that Jian Chen was completely unscathed despite taking on everyone's attacks with his body. Even when some of them had struck him with god artifacts, they had failed to cause him even a scratch. What did this mean? This meant that even if they worked together and used powerful god-tier battle skills and secret techniques, they were not even capable of injuring Jian Chen. And no. This is impossible, this is fake. This must be fake. All the primordial realm experts of the Darkstar race were shocked. Some of them even rubbed their eyes hard, unable to believe this. The sight caused a tremendous impact on them all. That was because it had completely overturned their understanding. How could a person's body be so tough? Even the Darkstar Emperor's eyes narrowed. He could clearly sense that the outsider's body had become far, far tougher than last time. The primordial realm experts of the Darkstar race were stunned, but Jian Chen did not hesitate at all. A streak of sword chi pierced through the air, beheading the last Vice Hall Master of the 7th Divine Hall. Duff was dead. With that, all the primordial realm experts of the 7th Divine Hall were annihilated. Afterwards, Jian Chen carried out a one-sided massacre. Following the annihilation of the 7th Divine Hall, the 6th Divine Hall became his target. He used the laws of space with great flexibility, purposefully avoiding the Darkstar Emperor and specially targeting the 10 Divine Halls. Spurt. The 6th Hall Master Irvin was dead. Spurt. The Vice Hall Master of the 6th Divine Hall, Si Wuqing, was dead. Spurt. The Vice Hall Master of the 6th Divine Hall, Si Wuming, was dead. Spurt. The Vice Hall Master of the 6th Divine Hall, Oguding, was dead. Spurt. The Vice Hall Master of the 3rd Divine Hall, Calidor, was dead. The battle had not lasted for too long, but several primordial realm experts had died already. The 7th and 6th Divine Halls were annihilated in that order, while the 3rd, 4th, and 9th Divine Halls all lost Hall Masters or Vice Hall Masters. This day was definitely the darkest day in the history of the Darkstar race. In such a short time, over 10 primordial realm experts had fallen in battle. As the greatest expert of the Darkstar race, the Darkstar Emperor was useless despite being able to overwhelm everyone at his level. He possessed invincible battle prowess on par with chaotic primes, but he was unable to stop Jian Chen's slaughter at all. Hide into your divine halls. The Darkstar Emperor roared in anger and hatred. He erupted with his strength without holding back at all, engaging Jian Chen in a startling battle that could leave the universe devastated. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. The Darkstar Emperor's violent bellow immediately snapped the remaining primordial realm experts of the Darkstar race back to their senses. They did not hesitate at all, taking out their divine halls before rushing inside as quickly as they could. You three go in first. The 10th Hall Master tossed out the divine hall, blinded by anger. Her eyes were filled with both sorrow and hatred. After the 3 Vice Hall Masters of the 10th Divine Hall entered the Divine Hall, Feng Shui drew a low-quality god artifact sword and charged towards Jian Chen fearlessly with eyes filled with resolve. Feng Shui, get back here. You won't be able to harm him at all. Don't do something stupid. The 2nd Hall Master, who was about to charge into his Divine Hall, saw this and immediately called out, but when he saw Feng Shui's resolute gaze and her courage to give up everything, he immediately sighed inside. He no longer said anything else, turning around and disappearing into the Divine Hall. The 10 Divine Halls had already been switched out with medium-quality god artifacts. Even though they were damaged, they were still far tougher than low-quality god artifacts. By hiding inside, the primordial realm experts finally felt some sense of safety. Afterwards, they carefully watched the battle from inside. None of them controlled the Divine Halls to attack Jian Chen. Even when all 10 Divine Halls were present, the formation assembled from the Divine Halls were unable to harm Jian Chen at all, let alone now when they had lost the 6th and 7th Divine Halls. Not only were the 2 Divine Halls completely annihilated, but even the 3rd, 4th, and 9th Divine Halls had all lost their Vice Hall Masters, making their strength plummet. It was even more difficult for them to pose a threat to Jian Chen. The hall masters and vice hall masters who hid in their divine halls obviously saw what Feng Shui was doing. They all sighed inside. Hall Master Feng Shui is just too deeply in love with Hall Master Kuan Tian. Now that she has learnt that Kuan Tian is already dead, the impact it has caused to her is well beyond what any of us can imagine. Hall Master Feng Shui has basically embraced death. She clearly doesn't want to live either now that Kuan Tian is dead. She is intentionally asking to die. The outsider's strength is far too terrifying. I really can't believe he's not even 1,000 years old. No one can save Hall Master Feng Shui now. The primordial realm experts hiding in the divine halls all sighed. The outsider had already annihilated 2 divine halls consecutively, which allowed everyone to witness his mercilessness. As a result, Feng Shui had no chance of surviving in their eyes. Jian Chen clearly sensed Feng Shui as she charged over aggressively. His expression did not change at all. All he did was extend his finger and point at Feng Shui from afar. Immediately, the space around Feng Shui froze. As if time had come to a standstill, Feng Shui remained in her flying posture, frozen on the spot, completely immobilized. With Feng Shui's strength at the 6th heavenly layer, it was impossible for her to break free from Jian Chen's spatial restraints quickly. She's done for. Hall Master Feng Shui is done for. Seeing this, a few primordial realm experts in the divine halls had already closed their eyes, refusing to witness what came next. They could already anticipate Feng Shui's fate. She would either be mercilessly slain by the spatial blades, or space would suddenly collapse. She would be sucked into the spatial cracks, dying without a corpse. But what happened next left the primordial realm experts greatly surprised. Trapped in space, Feng Shui did not die like they had imagined. Instead, the outsider waved his hand, and Feng Shui hurtled towards the 10th divine hall, vanishing in there. What is this about? The murderous demon didn't kill Feng Shui. Just like that, all of the hall masters and vice hall masters immediately widened their eyes, greatly taken aback. However, before they could think too much about it, a thunderous rumble filled their heads. The Dark Star Emperor used a secret technique and erupted with his strongest attack, clashing violently with Jian Chen. The seal under his control also erupted with devastating might, and it had demonstrated its past glory under the ignition of the Dark Star Emperor's essence blood. Immediately, the world erupted. The entire region of space was reduced to darkness. Their clash this time even devastated the surroundings. The destructive pulses of energy made the divine halls hovering in the distance shake violently. But afterwards, a blinding streak of sword chi suddenly lit up in the darkness. Jian Chen turned into a sword and shot off as a bolt of lightning, piercing through the void and stabbing towards the Dark Star Emperor resplendently. Boom! With a great rumble, the triangular shield that protected the Dark Star Emperor was knocked away, while the sword chi Jian Chen had transformed into did not weaken at all. It tore through the Dark Star Emperor's protective energy like a hot knife through butter, slamming against the Dark Star Emperor viciously. The Dark Star Emperor was completely launched away. The cracks on his medium-quality god artifact armor multiplied. The Dark Star race had plenty of god artifacts, but there did not seem to be a single god artifact in perfect condition across the entire race. Basically all the god artifacts were damaged. A damaged god artifact obviously could not completely block Jian Chen's attack. Having received that blow, the Dark Star Emperor's body surged as his organs shook violently. Jian Chen's battle with the Dark Star Emperor lasted for 3 whole days and nights. After such a lengthy period of battle, the Dark Star Emperor finally began showing signs of weakness. He had gone from evenly matching Jian Chen to being completely overwhelmed by Jian Chen. During the 3 days of battle, the Dark Star Emperor used his full strength. He had unleashed his medium-quality god artifacts time after time, and he had ignited his essence blood again and again. Accumulating over time, the very source of power in his body finally faced the predicament of almost running out. By now, the Dark Star Emperor was already riddled with wounds. Not only was he covered in slashes, but his organs had even been reduced to pieces. On the other hand, Jian Chen seemed rather disheveled, but that was all. He did not show any signs of weakness. Instead, he became braver the more he fought. He had also sustained many wounds, but with the powerful chaotic body, these wounds were unable to affect him at all. As for the energy in his body, it even gave the Dark Star Emperor an impression that it was endless. It was like it would never run out. Bang! With another rumble, the Dark Star Emperor's medium-quality god artifact armor that had already become extremely tattered finally fell apart before a strand of sharp sword chi, flying apart as fragments. Spurt! Blood sprayed from the Dark Star Emperor's mouth. His pale face radiated with weakness. Jianshan used this opportunity to launch more attacks. He slammed his hand against the Dark Star Emperor's head viciously, and the great force immediately shattered the Dark Star Emperor's skull. Even the Dark Star Emperor's entire body had directly exploded from Jianshan's palm strike. Your Majesty! From afar, the Hall Masters and Vice Hall Masters hiding in the Divine Halls all called out in sorrow. They were torn apart by fury as they cried blood as if the sky had already collapsed on them. Rain of blood fell down. This was the Dark Star Emperor's blood, dyeing the entire region red. The Dark Star Emperor's body no longer existed. Jianshan had completely destroyed it. Only the bronze lamp that hovered in the surroundings gradually lit up with a tiny flame. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. Chapter 2880, The Fate of the Race. The figure of the Dark Star Emperor's soul appeared in the bronze lamp. The bronze lamp protected his soul from all danger. Perhaps it was more accurate to say that the bronze lamp was the Dark Star Emperor's soul. His soul had already merged with the bronze lamp perfectly. The only way to destroy his soul was to destroy the bronze lamp. As long as the lamp was present, the Dark Star Emperor was unkillable. If the lamp died out, then the Dark Star Emperor would obviously disperse as well. Your Majesty, in the distance, all of the infinite primes who hid within the divine halls cried out sorrowfully. As they gazed at the Dark Star Emperor in soul form, they felt like the entire world in their mind had completely collapsed around them. Within the Dark Star race, the Dark Star Emperor was an invincible existence. He was undefeatable. At the 9th heavenly layer of infinite prime, he possessed battle prowess no weaker than chaotic primes. Even in the saints' world that was littered with experts and prodigies, the Dark Star Emperor was an existence almost second to none, enough to dominate everyone at his cultivation realm. He was the pride of the Dark Star race, the mental pillar of support. Now, an outsider who was less than 1,000 years old and only at the 8th heavenly layer of infinite prime had defeated the Emperor who had always been invincible among the Dark Star race. His defeat had a tremendous impact on the Dark Star race. At the same time, the invincible statue he had erected in the hearts of all members of the Dark Star race collapsed. This feeling was like the spine of the world that held up the sky had suddenly broken. The impact it would cause on the Dark Star race was immeasurable. For a moment, all the primordial realm experts hiding in the divine halls were thrown into dejection. You can't destroy my soul. The Dark Star Emperor's illusionary figure appeared above the bronze lamp, but his expression had become extremely peaceful. Apart from his gaze towards Jianshan that was filled with mixed feelings, he showed no other emotions. All of the fury and killing intent he had developed over the past 3 days seemed to have vanished with the destruction of his body. I know. As long as you have the lamp, I can't kill you no matter what. I can destroy your body at most. However, I've never considered killing you. I only want you to pay a fitting price for everything you've done. Jianshan hovered before the bronze lamp calmly. His gaze was frosty like before. From the first time he attacked the Dark Star Emperor with the profound sword chi, Jianshan knew that he was not capable of killing the Dark Star Emperor. The bronze lamp was a high-quality god artifact, and under his observations, he discovered that the high-quality god artifact was not damaged like the other god artifacts. It seemed to be in perfect condition. If he wanted to destroy this high-quality god artifact, even weaker Grand Primes were not capable of such a feat, let alone him who had gained the battle prowess of a chaotic prime recently. Make us pay a fitting price for everything we've done? Ha 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 ha. The Dark Star Emperor seemed to have heard the funniest joke in the world, laughing aloud freely. Outsider, why don't you take a look at my clansmen before taking a look at this world? Tell me, has my race done anything wrong? What heinous crimes has my race committed? Yet in the end, generation after generation of my predecessors and every single generation of my clansmen to come have been or will be trapped in here forever. That's right, the ancestor of our Darkstar race did have grievances with the wood spirits, but all of the enmity, all of the hatred, came from our ancestor alone. What have we, the later generations, done? What wrong have we committed? Yet, we're the ones trapped in here for generations on end, and are you aware that countless of our clansmen, from the moment they're born to their deaths, will never set foot in the outside world? They all know how colorful the outside world is. Everyone knows how magnificent the outside world is. They also know how easy cultivation is in the outside world. In our Darkstar race, there is no one who is not envious of the outside world. Everyone yearns for the outside world, but what can they do? They've all been trapped in this miniature world by the grand exalt of the wood spirits, unable to leave for their entire lives. In the end, they can only pass away with a heart full of regret and yearning for the outside world. The gaze from the Darkstar Emperor's figure gradually sharpened. He stared at Jian Chen fixedly and gritted his teeth. Outsider, tell me just what wrong we descendants have committed that we have to be imprisoned here forever by the grand exalt of the wood spirits. He's a mighty grand exalt with a lofty status, yet he happens to be so petty and narrow-minded, imposing his hatred towards our ancestor onto us innocent descendants. It's already been pitiful enough for our Darkstar race to decline so much, where even breaking through to chaotic prime requires many years of preparation, just so we can unleash the power of the entire race to hold the great ceremony and put up a fight against the grand exalt of the wood spirits' will. On the flip side, your outside world is richly endowed by nature. Let alone it being a piece of cake to break through to chaotic prime, even reaching the supreme realm of grand prime is easier than it is for our god kings to break through to the primordial realm. Outsider, tell me, has our race yet to pay a fitting price by being trapped in here for all these years? Have we still not lost enough? As for our actions, everything was for the sake of working towards breaking free from the restraint of this world. What wrong have we committed? Every single generation of our clansmen dreams that one day, we can be like you, soaring freely through the vast and bountiful saints' world. We're merely striving towards our dream, the lifelong, cherished wish that everyone holds. As he listened to the Darkstar Emperor's speech from the bottom of his heart, Jian Chen was unfazed. He had spent quite some time among the Darkstar race already, so he understood the situation of the Darkstar world extremely well. When you carry out the great ceremony, you even need a divine beast with a powerful bloodline as a sacrifice. None of this has anything to do with me. You can only blame yourself for choosing the wrong target to sacrifice, Jian Chen said coldly. The Darkstar Emperor shook his head. We don't regret choosing that divine beast to sacrifice at all, as divine beasts eligible to be sacrificed have always been extremely rare in the world, and it's even less likely for one to appear in our Darkstar world. As long as we come across one, our race will never let it slip by. If you could turn back time and give us the chance to choose again, we would still choose to sacrifice this divine beast. Jian Chen frowned with that, his eyes becoming cold again. However, never did we think that such a terrifyingly talented person would be standing behind the divine beast, so talented that you could reach the primordial realm under the age of 1,000. If we had learned about this a little earlier, the great ceremony would have never failed. The Darkstar Emperor let out a long sigh, filled with regret over this. Jian Chen understood that with the Darkstar race's strength and capabilities, his chances of saving Sacred Feather would become extremely slim, or even impossible, if they learned about his existence beforehand. He would even be in the danger of dying. That was because as long as the Darkstar race bit the bullet and destroyed the fruit of nurturing ways or prevented him from obtaining it, they could cast the ultimate curse with the power of the entire race. In such a scenario, he never could have lasted this long without the breakthrough. Even if he fled into the Two-World Mountains, he would not be spared. Not to mention that there was still the Darkstar Emperor as a powerful opponent. Before he broke through, he was not the Darkstar Emperor's opponent at all. There were also the 10 divine halls of the Darkstar race. If they used medium-quality god artifacts as the divine halls right from the beginning, cast down the powerful formations in the capital city to trap him, and use the Dark Star Emperor to stop and kill him, Jian Chen would also be in dangerous territory. In short, if Jian Chen had not consumed the fruit of nurturing ways and the Dark Star race was prepared, they had far too many ways to deal with him. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. Chapter 2881. Inside the bronze lamp. Jian Chen fell silent. Although he had managed to tell a long time ago that the world the Dark Star race resided in was equivalent to a prison, it felt completely different when he heard it from the Dark Star Emperor himself. He understood that whether it was the Dark Star race sacrificing sacred feather for the great ceremony, the destruction he had caused in the Dark Star race, or even his massacre of over 20 major cities, none of it could be regarded as a mistake. The Dark Star race tried to sacred feather to increase the success rate of the great ceremony so that they could work towards the objective of leading their entire race out of the shackles and breaking out of this prison. If he stood in the Dark Star race's shoes, then not only were the Dark Star Emperor's actions perfectly fair, but they were even meritorious. This was a great cause dedicated towards the entire race. As for Jian Chen, he was not in any wrong either by disrupting the Dark Star race's great ceremony to save sacred feather. When he was under the influence of the Dark Star race's ultimate curse, he annihilated over 20 major cities to stop the ultimate curse to survive. There was nothing wrong with that either. There was no absolute right or wrong in this. There was only the brutal law of survival where the strong were revered and the weak would be feasted upon. At this moment, the Dark Star Emperor let out a long sigh. Outsider, you've saved the divine beast that needs saving, and you've killed so many of our people already, even destroying my body. With everything that has happened so far, our Dark Star race has already paid a heavy price. With how much you fought, it must have pacified your fury and hatred already, so why don't we just end our grievances here? The Dark Star Emperor finally yielded. He had lost his body now, reduced to a soul. He was no longer capable of doing anything to Jian Chen anymore. Even if he wanted to keep fighting, he did not have that ability, so all he could do was ask for peace. Of course, there was another important reason, which was he had truly begun to fear Jian Chen. He possessed great battle prowess, the toughness of his body was unmatched, and his regeneration was monstrous. Even the energy in his body was endless, completely inexhaustible. It was definitely the greatest nightmare the Dark Star race could face to have an enemy like him. The Dark Star Emperor's space ring had already fallen into Jian Chen's hands. Jian Chen fiddled around with the space ring and said, "Your Dark Star race no longer has the power to contend with me. Dark Star Emperor, you're telling me to take a step back and spare you when I have all the advantage on my side and I dominate this world? Your calculations are perfect." Pausing slightly, Jian Chen continued, "Of course, it's not impossible for me to stop, but your Dark Star race must agree to a few conditions of mine." "What conditions?" the Dark Star Emperor asked. "I need high-grade God King grass, ancestral sacred earth." Jian Chen produced a great list of precious resources before staring at the Dark Star Emperor with a shining gaze. "I want all of your Dark Star race's supply." "That's possible. Our race is unable to make use of these items. Only in the hands of you outsiders can their tremendous value be unleashed. I can give you our entire supply of these items." The Dark Star Emperor agreed without any hesitance. "A bone of the grand exalt of the wood spirits, the method to casting the ultimate curse, as well as the precious items you've been holding onto all this time. I want them all." Jian Chen made some exorbitant demands. The Dark Star race were sitting ducks anyway now, completely at his whim, so he obviously would not hold back. Of course, he was extremely interested in these items too. At the very least, he understood one thing. The Dark Star race possessed a few items that could even interest Grand Primes from the Saints' world. They were either some kind of precious material or some kind of valuable treasure. In short, they were rare. "Even if I give you the method to cast the ultimate curse, you won't be able to use it, as it's a secret technique that only our Dark Star race can use. When we cast the ultimate curse, it requires the power of the bloodline and soul of the Dark Star race. Only our clansmen can unite everyone's wills through the ultimate curse. As for the Grand Exalt of the Wood Spirit's bone, I'll obviously give it to you if you're willing to hand over the divine beast and let our Dark Star race succeed with the great ceremony. But now, the great ceremony has failed, so even if I want to give you the bone, I can't, said the Dark Star Emperor. Jian Chen frowned. Why do you say that? Do you see this bronze lamp? It has a space of its own inside. The bone of the Grand Exalt you want is stored in the space of the bronze lamp, and the space can only be opened when I reach Chaotic Prime. It's not just the bone from the Grand Exalt of the Wood Spirits. Even the ultimate treasures you mentioned as well as a few important items the ancestor left behind are all stored in the bronze lamp. Until I reach Chaotic Prime, I can't take a single item out of the bronze lamp. What exactly is in the bronze lamp? Jian Chen did not want to accept this, but he could feel that the Dark Star Emperor did not seem to be lying. The bronze lamp immediately surged with mist, and an extremely tiny crack appeared. Immediately, several different presences poured all with a bleak feeling of age. A few items were immediately conjured before Jian Chen's eyes, seeming like projections. They seemed vivid. They were a rib, a spine, half a heart, and a small, circular, bronze-colored platform. The rib, spine, and half a heart all radiated with an indescribably dense presence of life. In particular, the life force within the half a heart could only be described as terrifying. It even conjured the laws of life. Are the rib, spine, and heart all from the Grand Exalt of the Wood Spirits? Jian Chen's heart surged. Grand Exalt. Just how lofty of an existence was that? It was rumored that Grand Exalts represented the heavenly ways, the order of the world. They were truly sovereigns of a world. Now, not only did he see the complete spine of a Grand Exalt, but he even saw half of his heart. How heavily injured was the Grand Exalt of the Wood Spirits in the past? It was beyond his imagination. Afterwards, his gaze landed on the fourth item, which was the circular, bronze-colored platform. His mind shuddered again. From the tiny platform, he could sense a power that was completely the same as the bronze lamp, which immediately convinced him that the platform was somehow connected to the bronze lamp. Don't tell me the tiny, circular disc is a part of the bronze lamp? Jian Chen shivered inside. He looked at the bronze lamp closely and failed to find even the slightest trace of damage. No matter how he looked at it, the bronze lamp seemed to be in perfect condition, but he also felt that if the bronze lamp was placed on top of the small, circular platform, it would become even more perfect. I should be right. The tiny, circular platform and the bronze lamp should be together. However, a great power has separated them. The bronze lamp by itself is already a high-quality god artifact, so if the bronze lamp merges with the circular platform and becomes whole again, just what quality of a god artifact will it be? Jian Chen was secretly shocked. High-quality god artifacts were extremely rare in the Saints' world. Even some Grand Primes did not possess one. Above high-quality god artifacts were supreme-quality god artifacts. Even throughout the entire Saints' world, there were only a handful of supreme-quality god artifacts. He even wondered whether the Anata Tower, the heavenly palace of Bisheng, the twin swords in their prime, and the Nirvanic Immortal Exalt's 4 divine swords stood among the ranks of supreme-quality god artifacts or not. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. Chapter 2882, Negotiations. Very soon, the 4 items conjured from inside the bronze lamp vanished, and the lamp returned to how it was before. However, Jian Chen was unable to calm down. His heart continued to pound at an extraordinary rate. There was a Grand Exalt's rib, a Grand Exalt's spine, and even half of a Grand Exalt's heart. If these 3 items ended up in the Saints' world, they would definitely rock the entire Saints' world. Countless Grand Primes would fight against each other tooth and tail for them. Clearly, Jian Chen was extremely interested too with such a great temptation laid out in front of him. He even became greedy. Jian Chen sucked in a deep breath and forcefully calmed down his turbulent emotions. He said, there should be much more than that in the bronze lamp. In soul form, the Dark Star Emperor glanced at Jian Chen deeply and said calmly, that's right, there are indeed much more than these 4 items inside the bronze lamp. Apart from these 4 items, there are also some extremely precious and rare materials inside, as well as a few ancient records the ancestor left behind. None of these rare materials possess powerful presences, so it's impossible to conjure them. As for the records left behind by the ancestor, they're all either secret techniques or cultivation methods. Only members of our Dark Star race can practice them, so even if outsiders obtain them, they're useless, unless they modify the cultivation methods of our Dark Star race and absorb the power of spirit sages. Jian Chen's eyes flickered as he stared straight at the Dark Star Emperor. He asked, Dark Star Emperor, you say you require a cultivation at Chaotic Prime to open the space in the bronze lamp. How am I supposed to believe you're telling the truth? I've always been a man of my word in the Dark Star race, and everything I do is done righteously and proudly. Never have I done things like rip off, trick, abduct, or fool like you outsiders. And, you've spent some time in our race when you were impersonating Kun Tian, so you should know a little about my moral character. I can only promise you that nothing I say is a sham, said the Dark Star Emperor, pledging seriously and sincerely. He was upright and honorable, radiating with righteousness. Moreover, some items that belong to the Grand Exalt of the Wood Spirits are supreme treasures that can drive everyone crazy in the eyes of you outsiders, but to us, they're truly useless. That's because we've already held on to these items for countless years. They were already in our possession before the spirit's world was destroyed in the past. Now, despite countless years passing since the destruction of the spirit's world, the items you regard as supreme treasures are no different from before. They haven't even moved within the bronze lamp's miniature world. Let alone the fact that we can't make use of these items. Even if we can, we wouldn't care about them, as everyone from our Dark Star race only has one grand wish, which is to break out of this prison, escape this world, go to the outside world, and take a look. For the sake of this goal, my race has already exerted itself for countless years, generation after generation. Even now, during the age that belongs to me, we still haven't given up. The Dark Star Emperor was upright, staring at Jian Chen straightforwardly. He continued, outsider, I've said all of this to make you understand that everything I say is completely true, without any deceit or falsehood at all. And I would never stoop as low as to plot some kind of scheme. The Dark Star Emperor paused for a moment. He said, of course, if you change your mind now and are willing to exchange the divine beast with me, then I can promise you that once our great ceremony succeeds, I'll give you all the materials in the bronze lamp, including the 3 items from the Grand Exalt of the Wood Spirits. You don't have to bring that up again. No matter how many precious items your Dark Star race possesses, even if you possess the legacies of Grand Exalts, you'll never exchange Sacred Feather from me. Jian Chen directly dismissed all of the Dark Star Emperor's thoughts. After a moment of thought, he continued, just the specialties of your Dark Star race is still not enough to exchange for the lives of your entire race. Since you can't produce the Grand Exalt of the Wood Spirit's bone, then you might as well replace it with the Grand Exalt's essence blood in your Dark Star race's possession. You want Grand Exalt's essence blood? The Dark Star Emperor's eyes narrowed. That's right. Not only has your Dark Star race produced a Grand Exalt, but he has fought against the Grand Exalt of the Wood Spirits, so you should have quite a lot of essence blood belonging to the Grand Exalt of the Wood Spirits too. You can replace the Grand Exalt's bone with essence blood. How much essence blood do you have? Jian Chen asked. The Dark Star Emperor thought to himself and said, we don't have essence blood from the Grand Exalt of the Wood Spirits. Even if we do, it's all inside the half a heart, so we can't retrieve it at all. However, we do have some essence blood from our ancestor, but there's not a lot left. Jian Chen's eyes shone brightly. Even his breathing became rather raged. I want 10 droplets of Grand Exalt's essence blood. Give me 10 droplets, and I'll clean the slate with your race. It won't just be me. It'll include Sacred Feather too. I will convince him to not take revenge against your Dark Star race. Otherwise, with Sacred Feather's bloodline and talent as a divine beast, coupled with my full support, his strength will definitely advance rapidly in a short amount of time. He'll definitely become a calamity to your race within the next millennium. Even you, the Dark Star Emperor, won't be Sacred Feather's opponent. Dark Star Emperor, what do you think about this deal? The Dark Star Emperor's expression did not change at all. Instead, he let out a long sigh. Outsider, you can't use the extinction of my race to threaten me. If we can't break out of this prison and have to continue living in here, unable to see the light of day, then that's actually a form of torture to us. Death might be another form of liberation. I admit you possess the ability to exterminate our Darkstar race, but when you slaughter us all, you won't be able to survive either. Because by then, I will use the final measure left behind by our ancestor without the slightest hesitation, which is to blow up the entire Darkstar world. All living creatures in the world, including everything inside the two world mountains, will be obliterated. The world was created from a colossal planetary beast that reached the 9th heavenly layer of Grand Prime, and it's filled with the powers of the two Grand Exalts. Once I blow up this world, the might unleashed will be so great that even high-quality god artifacts will be completely destroyed. When it really reaches that point, you'll have no chance of survival even if you hide inside the Darkstar Divine Hall. By then, my soul will survive, while you will be completely obliterated. However, if I blow up this world, all my clansmen in the Darkstar world will die apart from me, so unless we truly face the threat of extinction, I am reluctant to use this final trump card. The Darkstar Emperor's eyes glistened. He said to Jian Chen with great seriousness, as a result, I hope you don't go overboard and leave behind the clansmen of the Darkstar race. It'll also keep my dream intact, which serves as a form of restraint against me, preventing me from discarding everything without the slightest regard out of utmost despair and going forward with something as crazy as that. Jian Chen's expression changed. In other words, your Darkstar race can actually break out of this prison at any time? Indeed, but what's the point of that? The prison is gone, but my clansmen will all be gone too. If I really do that, I'll become the eternal traitor of our race. How will I still be able to face my ancestors? The Darkstar Emperor was sorrowful, giving off a heavy feeling of powerlessness. Jian Chen fell silent. He stared at the Darkstar Emperor quietly and could not help but admit the Darkstar Emperor was a fitting leader. He clearly possessed the way to break out, but for the sake of his clansmen, he was willing to remain trapped with them rather than betray his race. Even after being trapped for countless years, his willpower had not wavered at all. Just this spirit of dedication deserved to be revered as mighty. If a similar situation happened in the Saints' world, Jian Chen was confident that most people, even including Grand Prime ancestors that lead an entire sect or clan, would go with the other choice without the slightest hesitation. Within the ruthless environment of the Saints' world, most people's convictions were twisted. They would not let a bunch of weaklings that were useless to them serve as a shackle that held them back. I can give you the 10 droplets of Grand Exalt's essence blood that you want, but you need to agree to a condition from us. No, you need to swear an oath. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. You're tuning into the Biyao's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.